All right, so day 2, we're going to talk about similar polygons. So similar polygons are two polygons that have congruent corresponding angles and lengths of corresponding sides are proportional. So the difference between similarity and congruence, so that's what we've been working with is congruence, but now we're going to switch to similarity. Congruent means you have to have the exact same size and the exact same shape. Similarity, however, means you have to have the same shape and your angles, your corresponding angles have to be congruent, but they can be different sizes. So if we look here at this first example, polygon ABCD is clearly a lot bigger than triangle PQRS. However, they are similar because their angles, their corresponding angles are congruent, and then you have the proportional sides. So each side is proportional to the other side in each figure. So what I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video and fill in the missing statements under the first section of the notes. So for example 1, it wants us to write the congruent angles and the proportions for the ratio of the corresponding sides. So the way that we do that, the angles are pretty easy. You're just going to write the letters. So we have angle B is 45. So that's going to be congruent with something in the other figure, which is angle X. Then you have angle A. So you're just looking from one figure to the other. So in the first figure, A is 105. So the second figure, W is 105. And then C matches with angle Y. And angle D matches with angle Z. So the angles are pretty obvious. Either they have the same amount of tick marks or arc marks, or they have the same degrees. Now to figure out the sides, what you have to figure out first is you want to write your proportion. So I'm going to do the small shape on top and the big shape on the bottom. So this will just help you make sure that your proportions set up right. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a side from the small polygon. So the small polygon here, I'm going to pick BA. So I'm going to go BA. Now to figure out what I pick in the big one, I have to go on the same corresponding side. So I'm going to do XW. That's going to equal, so these all have to be equal in order for it to be similar. So then I'm going to pick the next side. I'm going to do B and C. So BC is from the small one. Now I'm going to go to the big one, and I'm going to do XY. So it's got to be the same corresponding side. And then here I'm going to do CD. This will give me XY. And then lastly, AD and WZ. So that is all the corresponding angles that are congruent, and then that is the sides being proportional from these two figures. So we're going to have to use that in solving the problem. So here, this tells us that it wants to say, are the polygons similar? And then if they are, give the scale factor. So we know that the angles are congruent. So we have all congruent angles here. So that part's checked off. But in order for it to be a polygon that's similar, they have to have the same proportions here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in the numbers. So we've got BC, so I'm going to put in my number. I'm going to put 15 in, is to XY, so over 150. See if that's equal to BA over XZ, AD, and then CD. So in order to see if these are the same, so obviously they don't look the same right off the bat, but we have to simplify down each fraction. So if I divide here, so you can simplify each fraction separately. If I simplify 15 over 150, I'm going to divide top and the bottom by 15. That gives me 1 over 10. Now I'm going to do this one here. I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 11. So that gives me 1 over 10. And then here, 8 over 80 again is 1 over 10, and 4 over 40 gives me 1 over 10. So since they're all the same, that makes it similar. And then we have to do the scale factor. So the scale factor is just the reduced fraction. So my scale factor is going to be 1/10, is what they are all when they're simplified. So again, in order for it to be similar, the angles have to be congruent, all of the angles, and then you have to have the proportions are all equal. So we're gonna look at one more example. So for example 3, you're going to plug in, we're gonna first write our proportions out. So we'll always start with your letters. So I'm gonna do the small to the big. So you're gonna have LM matches with, now I've got to look, I've got one angle mark here and a 90-degree here. So I've got one angle here, 90 degrees here. That tells me I'm going to use side AB. Then I'm going to do MN is going to match with BC, and LN will match with AC. So from here, we're going to just plug in our numbers. ML is 8, AB is 12, MN is 6, BC is 10, LN is 10, and AC is 15. So again, I'm going to simplify my fractions separately. 8 over 12, if I divide the top and the bottom by 4, I get 2 over 3. 6 over 10, I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 2, I get 3 over 5. And here, 10 over 15, I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 5. So I get 2 over 3. Now, here we've got 2 that are the same, but since this one here in the middle is not the same, these are not similar. So again, make sure you have the proportions set up as well as the numbers plugged in.